Hello, everybody. It's Fast Coasters here, back with another coaster review of the Cedar Point Coaster Review series. Today, we are going to be reviewing Millennium Force, the world's first Giga coaster. Millennium Force opened on May 13th, 2000. It is a Intamin Giga coaster. It has a height of 310 feet, drop of 300 feet, speed of 93 miles an hour, track length of 6,595. Zero inversions, vertical angle of 80 degrees, and lasts about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Millennium Force was an iconic ride for the park when it opened back in 2000. It was the tallest coaster. It was the tallest full circuit roller coaster in America, and kept that until Cedar Point beat themselves out with Top Bill Dragster. So, talking about my experience with Millennium Force, it took me a little bit to get on it. I went to Cedar Point the first time in 2019. Unfortunately, I was a little bit afraid of Millennium Force, so I saved it until the end, and unfortunately, it did rain, so of course the ride had to close. Then I returned to the park in 2020, and I was able to get multiple rides on Millennium Force, and then since my visits of last year, I've been on it a bunch. So here to talk about Millennium Force. It is located in its own section. It's the Millennium Midway. It's accompanied by Rougarou, the floorless coaster, and Iron Dragon, the suspended coaster. It's off to the left-hand side of the park once you go down the main Midway. Millennium Force, it has a really good presentation. I mean, it's so imposing on the skyline when you look at it, just Millennium Force, when you don't put Top Bill 2 into view. Once you put Top Bill 2 into view, it makes Millennium look really small. But if you're just looking at Millennium Force all by itself, especially if you're driving on the causeway, if you're on the train, it looks gigantic. It's definitely one of the most imposing coasters out there, especially when you're on the ride looking at the lake. Millennium Force has an iconic entrance sign, so you can't miss the entrance, and it'll be accompanied by lockers. Lockers are mandatory on this ride. There are no metal detectors, so if you do have zipper pockets, you can take stuff up. Just if you have big bags, there will be no place to put them since it has two stations. That is a load and an unload. So you will have to put your bag in a locker. $10 for all day or $2 for a couple hours. Once you go into the queue, there's really not much theming in the queue at all. It's more stylized. You got the TVs playing regular theme park stuff. The station is very like sci-fi-esque, very futuristic with the Millennium theme. Typically, I'd wait about 45 minutes, 50 minutes for Millennium Force. Usually, it's hovering about around a 60-minute wait, especially since on my previous visits, it was only running 2 trains. They did not have the 3rd train in service. But if they do have 3 trains in service, it usually hovers around 45 to 60 minutes. On a really busy day, it'll of course be higher than that. Unfortunately, the queue is a bunch of cattle pens. It's about 3 cattle pens, but I only waited in the first one. It does have some covering, so that's good. Then you go up this ramp and you follow along one of my favorite views of the ride. It's that left-hand turn out of the bunny hop that goes into the last overbank. The view you get of the riders is awesome. Everybody's just having a blast and they just fly right past you. Gets you really excited for what you're going to experience. Then you stay on the ramp, and then you're elevated. You're right next to the unload station you pass through, and then you go into the load station. The load station is pretty cool. Has red lighting, again, very sci-fi theme. It is playing the Millennium Force theme song, and it does have some sound effects when it leaves the station from the Millennium Force teaser video, if you've ever seen that from when the ride came out. I have never been on Millennium Force in the front row, unfortunately, because the front row usually has a very long line, but I have been in the back row, and I've been pretty close to the front. So I haven't been hit with bugs on this ride because I haven't done it too late at night either. So just if you do it late at night, especially in the front row, just be warned of the bugs. Usually they do assign seats on this ride. You may be able to request a row, but typically there is somebody assigning seats. Once you're in the train, very comfortable train. And something I noticed when you go on Millennium Force and a ride like the now defunct Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America, you could really see a difference in the train design. Ride of Steel, it was a little bit cramped and the restraint was kind of like on top of you, like very close to you. Millennium Force, you have so much more room. The seats are way bigger, restraints are way comfier. So just a big improvement from those 1999 hypercoasters to the Giga coaster that Intamin came up with. Once the train dispatches, you head up the cable lift hill, which was the first cable lift hill in the world. You head up at about, I believe, 12 miles an hour it goes up. They recently sped it up. And then if you look down to your left, you get one of the scariest views in the park. It's just pure water. You can't see the causeway because you're so high in the angle that you're at. You could just see the Lake Erie just right below you. Like if you're gonna fall out to the left, you'll go right into the lake. If you look to the right, you get a great view of the park, especially like a great view of Top Thrill 2 and the back half of the park. Once you get to the top, you crest over into the 80-degree drop. Really good drop here, just really gets the speed going. No extreme airtime on here, but you really get the speed going with this one. Then you go into the 169 foot tall, 122 degree overbank curve, which is it's probably the most intense moment of the ride because you're definitely going to gray out on this element. I know a lot of people call it Millennium Forceless, but this is usually a really forceful element on the ride. One of my favorites, especially coming down and then swooping to the left into that tunnel. Once you're out of that tunnel, you go into a 182 foot tall airtime hill. Not too much airtime on here. You get some weak floater, but Millennium Force is not an airtime coaster. It is a speed machine, and I love speed machines, so that's why Millennium's one of my top coasters at the park. It's crazy to think that this airtime hill is the height of El Toro at Great Adventure, which is one of the tallest wooden coasters in the world. From there, you go into a right-hand overbank curve, then you go into a left-hand overbank curve, then you go into another airtime hill that doesn't really give off too much airtime. Once you're done with that airtime hill, you go into the tunnel again with a left-hand turn. That's where the on-ride photo is taken. Then you hop up into that bunny hop, and then you swoop past the queue with that another left-hand turn. And then you go into a little bit of a straight section that blows past the queue, and then you go into a right-hand overbank curve, which then goes into the brakes. So the layout, it isn't a very creative layout, but for the time and the size of the coaster, I do understand why they went with this layout. They had to play it safe because they were already getting really risky as it was with this height of a coaster from Intamin. But it's mostly consists of overbank curves and a couple of airtime hills, but it really just retains the speed the entire ride. At the end of the ride, you got to be going at least 60 to 70 miles an hour. Some great speed, just flying all over Cedar Point. It's really a great experience. Once you come off the ride, you're going to be in the unload station now, and then you go onto a ramp underneath, go right out to the photo booth, and there you are. That is your experience on Millennium Force. Millennium Force for me is going to get a 10 out of 10. I love Millennium Force. It's one of my favorites at Cedar Point. I know a lot of people hate on it. Recently, it's been getting a lot more love. But Millennium Force is definitely one of my favorites in comparison to other Giga coasters I have been on. I have only been on one other Giga coaster, and that is Pantherian at King's Dominion. Pantherian is a better ride than Millennium Force due to the intensity of the layout, but Millennium Force still holds its own in the pack, especially at Cedar Point with already so much elite stuff. Millennium Force is still one of the top dogs in the park. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and hope you join me for the next one, which will hopefully be Siren's Curse. So I'm really excited to talk about that one. So I'll catch you guys in the next review. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think about Millennium Force down below.